Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Verskoon my as ek in my moedertaal praat, maar ek is trots oor my taal en ek hoop almal voel dieselfde oor hulle taal. I'm not a politician yet. I have been invited to join the Freedom Front, and I've taken that honor of joining them, and I will touch on that a little later. But I'm a writer, an author, and a historian, and I've just jotted down a few notes of the speeches we've heard today, and I've heard a lot of history, what's happened in the past, and I've heard a lot of what's going to happen in the future, or what we think is going to happen, what we would like to happen. I did notice a tent disappear, and I take note of what Sunette said about that. And although I was never a member of the organization, I did used to listen very carefully to the speeches of their most famous leader, who himself was murdered brutally. And I look at the wall of remembrance behind us here, and I want to thank the organizers for including that, the people who went to the trouble to put those faces there, to remind us of our losses. I recognize so many of them. I know their names. I've seen these stories on Facebook. I've seen them on the internet, but I haven't really seen them in the newspapers because they get ignored. And this song, which Sunette sang so beautifully to us, brought tears to my eyes because we've all suffered loss in one way or another. My wife, sitting at the back, we've suffered tragedy just in the last 6 months, loss of a child, and although it was not in a violent way, it brings home to you the pain of what our people are going through. And if I could just go through a few of the syntheses, if that's the word, the syntheses of what has been said today, which is stuck in my mind, if I could, and my interpretation of them. And I'll be very brief. I'd like to say that in our zeal, in our effort to promote civil rights, and today is Human Rights Day, and I notice that many organizations are conspicuous by their absence, and yet we have a core here. Although it's small, if one person tells 10, and 10 tell 100, the message that comes out of this tent today, we will have achieved our aim. In our zeal to promote civil rights or human rights, we have to be careful of taking the wrong path, that we don't end up promoting not human rights but human wrongs, if I can put it that way. With rights come obligations and responsibilities, and if I demand a right which takes a right away from someone else, have I achieved a human right? Not at all. I've achieved a human wrong. And I see that happening in our country more and more. By the same token, if someone demands a right which takes away my right, have they achieved a human right? And they haven't. For many years, people of color in this country fought tooth and nail for freedom, for human rights. As the earlier speaker said, maybe it was only 1% who actually got down to fisticuffs, but they were serious in what they wanted. They wanted freedom. They wanted full human rights. Now, the very people who fought so hard and for so long for those civil rights are now denying other people their civil rights. For there to be civil rights, everybody must have the same rights before the law. We have a slew or a raft of laws now which discriminate against us, mostly white folk here, some bruin mense, as hulle self noem these days. They are discriminated against. The quota system, if they are in the Western Cape, 50% of the population, they may only have 9% of management. It's outrageous. So where do we find ourselves? In a country where the majority had few rights, now the majority has all the rights. And the minority that had all the rights now has fewer rights. As a historian, I've tried to learn the wise words from the past. I've tried to see the mistakes of the past. And in writing, very often, as I think most writers will know, you are reduced to tears. Because there's a saying that the only thing man learns from